agenda?
I approve the agenda.
Seconded.
So you made a motion. And you
Oh, I
made a second.
moved that we
Thank
approve the
you.
agenda, sorry.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Number one.
Okay.
Hold on.
Okay.
Any public comment?
Hold on, we may have.
Sure.
Thank you. Okay.
I move to award the Redland Reservoir Number 3 construction contract to 2KG Contractors Incorporated with a bid amount of $2,891,598 and authorize the general manager to sign the completed contract.
Second.
Okay.
Adam's project manager on this.
Good evening, Commissioners. As you know, as the agenda item said, the specifics of the project you're very familiar with. I know this is one of the backbone reservoir projects, the Redland Reservoir Number 3. It's a 1.25 million gallon at-grade welded steel reservoir we're going to construct out there. There are currently 2 reservoirs on site. Part of this project will include demolishing the smaller one, the oldest one, which is 1/3 of a million gallons, and then in that area that we'll need for the larger reservoir building, the new reservoir, and then also, as I shared, I think the last meeting, the work session, we opted to add some value as part of this project to upgrade, retrofit some components of the 3/4 million gallon steel reservoir number 2. So number 1's going away, number 2 is going to stay and get upgraded, and then number 3 is the new one that we're going to build. This project, as you know, is a team effort design with our consultant, Murray Smith. We did the project just right after the work session when we met last on the 27th of February. Before that, the pre-bid meeting we had out at the site went really well, it was very well attended. We also had a number of contractors submit the pre-qualifications of the reservoir contractor and painting sub-disciplines. So really good responses up to the bid period for the project. We opened bids, got 5 bids, all within a really good price range. There wasn't any really huge gaps. The high was a little higher than before, but again, a really good range, which just speaks to a good competitive all-around bidding environment, which is what we hope for. So we analyzed the bids and found a couple of, a number of discrepancies, as I summarized in there, and you also have some documentation and exhibits in the bid tally, and then the notice of intent to award, and the last exhibit is the letter that we had sent to the initial apparent low bidder. After reviewing the bids, we consulted with legal counsel, and we determined that we needed to reject the apparent low the Clore & Sons submitted. They basically failed to follow the bidding instructions submitted on the inappropriate bid form, which had been revised as part of a bid addendum, which they acknowledged, which is a part of the bid process.
Didn't use it?
Pardon?
But then they didn't use it?
Didn't use it. Tried to utilize the original bid form by filling in, trying to make up the difference between the revised bid form. As you can see, the material I provided you, I think exhibit number 2, or number 3 rather, excuse me, shows the submitted form that they provided. So again, as that letter speaks to, we had to reject that bid, which then led us to evaluate a second place bid from 2KG Contractors. We did that, found their bid compliant, determined it to be a responsive bid, and determined that in the notice of intent to award, that's who we would select as the apparent low bidder. So again, that was all through consultation with legal counsel. It's not a happening that happens often. There are times when we do discover errors in bids, but not to this extent. So we feel comfortable with the course that we landed on and the determinations that were made to award this bid to the second place, initially the second place bidder as opposed to the initial apparent.
So there were no protests?
No protests received, no. There's a
That's why the attorney-
seven-day period, yep, from the notice of intent to award, so that concluded 5 o'clock yesterday or 8 a.m. this morning. So nothing received from.
Were they creating their own numbers and estimates in here?
What they attempted to do was the revised bid form, which I didn't provide in the doc, actually, I stand corrected. If you look at the Exhibit B, and it shows the bid tally, the larger 11 by 17 sheets. That is the correct bid numbering and bid item description listing for the items on the project. So if you look down that list, and I put a big red box around McClure in the initial column there, page 2 of that exhibit, you'll see a number of corrections that were made that were highlighted in yellow, and then a notation at the bottom of that, which more or less complies or corresponds with the notes that were pointed out in the letter to McClure, the rejection letter. So, yeah, what they basically tried to do was use the original bid form, not the corrected version, and write in bid totals that would match the other form, but there were a number of errors with that.
So in other words, if we would have gone with them, there would have been a lot of rewrites and coming back to us for total bids and everything.
Potentially, it really speaks to a fundamental, I mean, the financial impact, wasn't overly significant. It actually, with corrections, if we were to interpret what they were intending to bid, would actually have lowered the total bid price. But it speaks to a fundamental issue with bidding, where bidders, when they submit a bid, we have pages of language in the bid documents that say, I, as the bidder, acknowledge that I'm understanding the bid, I'm going to use the right form, et cetera, et cetera. So they failed to do that.
Well, they knew they were wrong because there was no protest lodged, right?
That's
Well, and
understood.
if they would have accepted that bid, we would have had a protest for the next one as well.
Yeah, and that was a very real possibility.
Oh, absolutely.
On the positive side, and again, this is, I think, a positive direction that we're recommending, but the second place bid, the apparent low, the most responsive bidder from 2KG was only about 90,000, 85,000 more than McClure.
Have we used 2KG before?
We have not. Their reference checks all checked out well. They're a general contractor, they're not a tank constructor per se, but all 5 bidders used the same tank contractor, Paso Robles Tank, and same painter, S&K Painting, that were pre-qualified by us prior to. So,
Are these guys local?
2KG is, yeah. They're out of Portland. They have bid on other jobs of ours, but never been awarded, never been a competitive bid.
Okay,
They
well-
do, general utility, number of.
So we're gonna keep track of how they do in case they come up in the future for other projects?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
We're gonna watch them real close, because they're on the property we had problems with, so make sure.
Yeah, I was-
Don't have any more problems like that.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that, but because it was the
No,
executive meeting, I didn't.
you're right on.
Okay.
Anything else?
That's all.
You, are you good?
Yep.
Karen?
Excuse me, Commissioner Anger,
Yes,
Commissioner Blanes,
Yes.
Commissioner Kalani,
Yes.
Commissioner McNeil.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Number 2, we should all be reading off the purple copy, okay? Not the yellow copy. There you go.
okay, I move the board award a personal services contract to P&L Moore Development LLC and authorize the general manager to sign the contract on behalf of the Board of Commissioners.
Second?
Second.
Thank you.
So, thank you for pointing out in the packet, you have the purple, that the only change from the yellow was it has the new name that Mr. Moore is using. And then also we sent out separately from the packets the copy of the agreement. Mr. Moore's looked at that. He's favorable to that. And so we wanted to bring this to you. As you know, we've been in a relationship with Mr. Moore since July of 2016 associated with property purchases and so on. This contract allows him to continue that work with some of the Phase 2 property items and easement issues. And then it is for a 6-month duration and has a not to exceed value of $25,000.
Well, we'll see about that. We gotta get him on board first because he's not under contract. Okay. Any questions?
No?
Karen?
Commissioner Ranger?
Yes.
Commissioner Blanes?
Aye.
Commissioner Delaney?
Yes.
Commissioner McNeil?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can I have a motion to approve the, yeah?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You? Thank you. You got off the hook, Carol. Thank you.
Okay, so back to.
Yeah, we're moving. Is there anything on that water line easement you need, Bob? Pretty straightforward.
Okay.
Yeah, good, okay.
Little notch out.
Yeah,
But
that's what it looked like.
metering.
Yeah, exactly. Management report.
All right. So in your folder, we hand out, you have your monthly updates. And so I'd like to just highlight a number of different construction project update items are listed on page 7 and 8. One thing I do want to bring to your attention, as per our board policy, is that on page 3, where we talk about the contracts law, there was an amendment to the Kennedy Jenks Consultants contract. These are the folks who are doing work on the Hatton pump station. There was some additional work that we had to modify their scope and make that amendment. It's about a $25,000 change. It is within about 9% of the total contract, so it's within that authorization authority. Some of this had to do with the fact, if you remember, we had an issue with the county wanting us to move the driveway, and so this is an additional work that they helped devise a solution and how we could get that through the county process. And then we also are, one of the things that wasn't in the original scope is looking at how we can move water from Redwood Reservoir north to 152nd in an emergency. So some of the hydraulics and pumping that was associated with that in that scope. So again, wanted to just make the board aware that amendment was in place. In your reports, or in the agenda item 3, there's a number of other things just to quickly highlight. So talk about a lot of information there about the Regional Water Providers Consortium board meeting and how they do take action on the budget. As it relates to our dues for CRW, just a very, very slight increase of $246. So our dues will go up from $27,608 to $27,854. The consortium, they do all the media campaigns, and we work and coordinate with them on emergency preparedness. And they're also very involved right now in updating their strategic planning. So I've provided a bunch of information on page 3 of the report.
As I had mentioned earlier, I'm the representative on that committee, and I will not be in town for that meeting. But I don't think we're going to do a vote then. I think it's just, so I just, okay, thank you.
Yeah, so if there is interest in appointing an alternate to attend that meeting, that would be great. It's June 6th. It's a Wednesday evening at the Metro office. But as Commissioner Andrew pointed out, there's no action items anticipated for that meeting at that.
Why don't we have a reminder before that, when it gets a little bit closer to June 6th?
Yep,
Okay,
perfect.
sounds good.
Let's see, moving on. One thing I did want to make you aware of is because it was mentioned earlier today, is CRW staff did have a chance to meet with FCS Group, who is the consultant that's working with us in Oregon City on looking at the water wheeling analysis. And so we had a chance to kind of provide them some feedback on the analysis. We anticipate, they're now going through running the models and looking at things, and we anticipate getting a draft memo in March that will help put some perspective. But as you've already alluded to, we're anticipating a significant increase in the moving charges associated with that.
Wonderful.
And it's based on a cost of rate-making model, and so there's a little bit of science or a little bit of finance behind it. Under emergency management, I think last time we talked, we were having some issues with the VHF radio system. That's all been fixed and it's working, so we're continuing to be in the test mode. Appears to be working really well. So far so good, some of the feedback. And looking ahead, just to kind of tease a little bit more, but we'll talk more about this at our next work session, but we're starting to look at that phase 2, and so Don's been doing a lot of work with Oklahoma Water Services. They're very interested in allowing us to use one of their sites, and have a lot of infrastructure already in place that would make it a lot simpler, and it works really well with at least some of the coverage maps that's been looked at. So we'll report more on that in the next work session.
I'm going to ask him a question. You got some information here, said that the coverage worked a lot better than what you thought, covered more area?
Yeah, with the single site, we've got really good coverage with portables, which we weren't expecting from the coverage maps. It was just, we were worried.
Good for us.
So, 2 questions. One, portable at the treatment plant?
It's scratchy
Yeah.
out of operations. It's garbled if you try to talk from different locations. We did install 2 mobiles, one on the north side customer service truck, one on the south side, and then I have a portable in the window of my office. And
Yeah, but so you have mobile coverage at the treatment plant?
pretty good. It's still a little garbled even with.
Should be, yeah, it'll go just like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's the advantage of the second site.
yeah, when you get the other side, it'll, perfect.
Yeah, it's a 2-directional look at the district. So you got signal coming this way and signal coming this way.
So how much remains to be done for this radio, this communications?
So the next step is phase 2. Assuming everything goes according to plan, we will be looking at the View Acres site. And then at some point, and as an interim step, what we're going to do is use Verizon Wireless to link the 2 sites. And then as a phase 3, which would be in the next budget cycle, the plan is to actually look at a linking site. I've actually made contact with a couple of property owners. We own a site, it's Stoltz Reservoir site. It's an abandoned reservoir.
Good spot.
And yeah, there's a lot of advantages to it. But again, the cost is going to be a little higher. But what we're seeing is with the potential for partnerships we have once we get this built, this will really do a great job of solving our communication issue with the water providers in the Clackamas basin.
So other people would be coming on.
We have the capacity to add several partners just because of the size of the districts.
Absolutely.
And that was the goal from
So
the
how well does
beginning.
it cover Sunrise?
View Acres has a really good look at it from the coverage maps.
Yeah,
We
but
really-
with Beaver Creek, how does it cover?
There's a big hill in the way.
Yes, there is. I was just wondering, the backside should be pretty tough.
Yeah, once you start getting out past about 152nd, then the signal goes down. The surprising thing was that from Beaver Creek, I live in Eagle Creek, and from Beaver Creek to Eagle Creek, I actually have reception in my house with a portable, 5-watt portable. The mobiles are 50-watt.
No, that's good. That's very good.
Okay.
Thank you, Doc.
Just a couple safety type items to note as we're trying to always continue to improve some of our practices and processes, so just noted some things in that report. Wanted to spend just a second on some property related issues. One, we have a partnership with Clackamas Little League to use the Riverside Park. We've been down there with great ball fields and stuff. One of the nice things, we had a chance to meet with them recently, and they gave us our plaque from last year for our support and stuff. We're supporting for one of the 2017 season, so we'll continue that. One thing that you're gonna see down there is they're working on replacing their snack shack with a larger building that will have some storage and and some greater opportunity. This is all stuff that they pay for. It's actually been nice, they actually have a lot of some parents that work for different firms that actually, you know architecture and engineering and stuff, so it's actually been very pleasant to work with them on respect to that. So we are planning on reopening the Riverside Park restrooms also this month, and so we'll do that. And we'll we've actually worked out a deal with the Little League where they can help kind of police some of those as far as making sure stuff's locked up in the evening. I think last work session I mentioned the contact from the Oregon City School District, and so just as a quick update, Don has been in contact with them, and so they're working on their plan, and they'll get back to us on how that works. But I think there's some real possibilities to address some issues and opportunities there. And then finally, in looking ahead, a lot of scheduling things I want to go over for just a minute, and so ask your patience in that. As we look at the calendar coming up, first off, just to note, our next meeting is our March. We're going to notice that as a special meeting and work session, so it'll be March 19th, which is different from our normal schedule. So it's the third Monday of the month instead of the fourth Monday. The primary items would be for the special meeting. The only item for the special meeting at this point would be to discuss and appoint a commissioner candidate. As far as the work session, it's fairly light at this point. We're trying to give us the state of the district report, which is something that was included in the goals for myself. That we'll do that, and then we'll have the general commissioner communications and general manager update. So if there's other topics that we need to be including on that, please let us know. Then as it relates to the Clackamas Regional Water Supply Commission, a lot of changing of dates here recently. So originally we had a March 12th meeting that was scheduled that since has been canceled. And that in place of that, there will be an April 9th actual special board meeting and budget committee meeting will be held that evening. And so one of the things that we need to do in preparation for that budget committee is we need to provide our budget committee representatives. So currently we have 3 commissioners who serve on the CRWSC. So that's Commissioner Blanos, Commissioner Andrew, and Commissioner Kalani. And so those will be 3 of the 6 that we provide. And so we have to come up with an additional 3 people that would serve on that budget committee. And Carol can correct me if I've got any as well.
So can we, are we going to ask some of the people from our budget committee?
Yeah, so what we're planning on doing is, and Carol's going to inquire, want to get through this meeting first, make sure you're fine with this. Carol will have contact our budget committee members, see if we can get 3 of them to participate. Frankly, it's anybody from within the district that can participate. This is a truly one-shot short meeting. It's pretty low commitment with respect to that, but it will be held at sunrise, so that's something to be aware of. So we're planning on soliciting and seeing if we can get some of 3 of our budget committee members to participate. There's always the option that Commissioner, if you wanted another meeting, you could count as one of those people. You're one of the 3, but I didn't want to say anything. I didn't want to. So.
And that meeting's going to start at 4 o'clock, right?
Yes.
4 to
There's the real reason.
Yeah. 4 o'clock at sunrise. And then the plan would be as then we would bring that budget back to the CRW board. You'll have a chance to go through it, and then the CRWSC would approve that budget at their June meeting. So that's kind of the process there. Real quick, one correction. I had to switch by vacation time, so instead of March 29th and 30th, I'm planning on taking the first part of that week, March 26th and 27th. So Carol will still be my KIC. That is updated in the board calendar, so it's corrected in the calendar that you access online. And then the May work session, that's our 4th Monday of the month, ends up falling on Memorial Day. So staff is proposing that we move that a week earlier if that works for the board.
Say it again?
So on May 28th is Memorial Day, which would be our normal work session date. And so we're proposing to move that work session 1 week earlier to May 21st. So,
That would be great.
And all these are already listed on the.
well, we wanted to make sure you're okay with that before
Not on
we
the
change the
calendar,
calendar.
but will be.
But we'll be, if you say thumbs up,
Yeah.
we'll put it on the calendar.
Yeah.
So Does that work for you too, Commissioner Kalani? Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. That concludes my manager's report. Thanks.
Anything else? Oh, yeah, what's up with Larry's recognition?
So, I was hoping, we actually just received it today, and so.
What's it?
Did you get a plaque?
So,
on
in
my-
talking,
File cabinet.
in talking,
On my file cabinet.
with Mrs. Soa, she said that he would really like a red hunting hat. And so we have tried to figure out what a red hunting hat would be, and we think we've found it, and we've bought it, and this is what he would like.
Are we gonna put a logo on it?
So we wanted, it's one of those things that depends on the size of your head. So what we're going to do is we would like to first present it to him. We would love to put the logo on it, but we didn't want to put the logo on it until we knew it fit. So one of those minor things.
Okay.
So the plan would be that would be, I think, the next meeting, the March 19th meeting, it would be a great time to have him come and see if he's available and see if we can present it.
I'll go get a hat from him. That's not hard.
Push it and tackle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this one comes up to the mailbox, it's over.
Yeah.
You have to have a hat.
So, anyway, that's where we're at with that. So,
Very good, thank you. Anything else? We're out of here.